Now, I'm very excited. Welcome back. One of my favorites and all-time best totals bettors that I know, and Mr. Kyle Hunter from Hunter Sports Picks. You can follow Kyle on X at Kyle Hunter Picks. Kyle, it's funny. We're actually in the middle of college basketball season, kind of. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. It's been a while since we've chatted. It's good to chat. And college basketball, right about halfway through the season. We're finding out a lot about these teams. We know NFL's in the playoffs, college football, one game left. A lot going on this time of the year, but I'm excited to talk about a lot of it here tonight.
Yeah, I am too. Just so much fun going on. Around this time of year, we used to have the SEC Big 12 Challenge too, but that had to unfortunately go away. But that was around this time of year. I remember it was around the third week of January where we had that. But by now things change. But what doesn't change is we have a ton of teams. We still have 365 teams, to bet on, and that's always fun. And we have a lot to talk about. And this is the first official college basketball show that I'm having with a guest, and no better than you, Kyle. So thanks for coming on and speaking with me again here about this wonderful sport that we both love so much. I ask you this every year, the first time you come on for college basketball. So I'm not going to stop now, my friend. Give me an under the radar team that can make some noise if they make the NCAA tournament. Now, this could be like a Power Four team that just nobody's talking about as much. Or it could be that small group of, not just group of five, but like it's just smaller conference team, obviously, in general, since we have so many conferences.
Well, Kiev, I'm going to give two here because I kind of feel like I'm cheating with the first one. I like to go way under the radar, and they're kind of a big name team. But Texas A&M, there's a reason I'm wearing a Texas A&M hat. I like Bucky Ball. I think he's a really good coach, and they've shown signs of coming on here of late. Almost won at Tennessee the other day. For all the problems that Rick Barnes has in March, he is a good coach, especially this time of the year. And winning at Tennessee is a tough thing to do. They almost did it. Texas A&M's pulled off a couple nice wins already. The way they play, I think, could give people trouble in March if they make it. I don't know if they'll make it, but I think if they do, they'll be really dangerous. That's my first one. The second one, just going way under the radar, Yale from the Ivy League. I think Yale is a tricky team in that they have plenty of veterans. They're really well coached. Kiev, we've seen some Ivy League teams make some noise in some of these recent years. I don't think the Ivy League is like really good by any means, but smart players, guys who take care of the ball well. Yale already beat Akron in a neutral site game. They went to Vermont and won. I'm not saying these are like massive wins because they haven't played a great schedule, but if you're looking way under the radar, a team that could cover a spread on the first weekend if they get there, I think that's the type of team that could pull an upset, cover a couple spreads. So Texas A&M is a team that could win a couple games in the tournament and do some damage, and Yale is one that's a bit under the radar.
Oh, absolutely. And Bucky Ball's great. Shoots a lot of threes. Rim rate's good. Never mid range. That's a great style of ball. I actually prefer that style of ball. And if you're successful at that, you're usually winning games. It means you're rebounding too, usually, right? So completely agree with you there. And that's some of those Ivy teams, Princeton, Yale, in the past has given a lot of the big names trouble. I think one of them beat Arizona, if I'm trying to remember right, back in the NCAA tournament, maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. There's been some upsets, and so I don't have any problem with that Yale pick at all. I think it's a really good one, actually, and I love it when you think out of the box. What's funny with you, though, you've always said, I stay away from the Ivy League a lot this time of year. It is tough to bet.
Listen, I don't bet Ivy League versus Ivy League games. So this is not me saying I'm going to be betting Yale during the regular season. But I think Yale is a team that could make some noise. I think that we're a little bit short on teams from, the SoCon and conferences like that could really make noise. I was trying to find one there.
Well, the SoCon Mercer's been decent in the SoCon.
Okay. They're okay. Yeah. St. Louis is a good team that's not too far under the radar at this point with, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and you've got Josh Schertz there who's done a really good job. I just don't know if they're terribly far under the radar at this point with what their record is. And,
Yeah.
usually we've had this team from, East Tennessee State or somebody like that from the SoCon that I think can really do some major damage. I don't know. I feel like we're lacking a little bit there. McNeese is a good Southland team, but we've seen them do well in the past. I don't know. Can they do what they've done in the past? I don't think they're quite as good. So I think we have a little bit smaller pool to pick from for way under the radar teams that could do damage.
Yeah, I think you're right. East Tennessee State's good in their conference, but they haven't played anybody, and that's the problem. You try to the efficiency sites tend to sniff these teams out pretty quick, and that's always the problem. I think George Mason's interesting at 17-1. Remember back in the day, it was a 2004, 2005, something like that. George Mason made the NCAA tournament and made it, I believe, to the Final Four, which was really fun to watch. And they just beat VCU at home, 86-80. And they do have a loss at Virginia Tech, but that happens. They did beat Florida Atlantic, and Florida Atlantic's creeping. So George Mason's just really interesting at the Atlantic 10. The question is, can they get by Dayton and St. Louis? Right, those are the two in front of them. It'd be cool if they could win their tournament, because it would really shake some things up, because I would assume St. Louis might make it in as an at-large anyway. So could be a bubble buster type situation.
Yeah, let's say one more, Kiev, because maybe we should at least talk about them a little. Is Murray State and MVC.
Okay.
Missouri Valley, a conference that both of us like, I know. You never know who's going to win Arch Madness. There's plenty of teams that could win that, but Murray State can really score. And the way they play is so unique to every other team in the conference. And the fact that they're undefeated coming into this, they've won 11 straight games, undefeated in the conference. Pretty shocking to me. I mean, they're putting up 85, 84, 81, 86 points in a conference where this. I mean, there's a lot of low-scoring games usually. So Murray, can they play enough defense to beat a big-name team in a March Madness game? I don't know, but that'd be a fun matchup if they get in there.
Certainly will. One really weird stat about them is they're number one in opponents not shooting threes. 24% of opponents' shots are only 24% of threes against Murray State, which I found really interesting looking at Ken Palm here. And they've haven't lost since November 24th, and that was to McNeese, a very good team. So great call on that one. I'm really interested in Arch Madness. We love those unders, obviously. Dark arena there, and even though we always say, oh, the market knows, it's just they seem to still put it too high every single year. So we'll see if that changes, but we always also like to look to the first half. I'm already thinking March Madness, Kyle. Can you believe it?
I can't blame you. I mean, I started thinking, what are the conference tournament angles, and that's got to at least pass your mind every single month in basketball season.
Absolutely. Well, that was some great teams that you brought up. I love those under the radar teams. We'll keep our eyes on those, write those down for later, maybe find some sort of a make the tournament, or you could bet them to win it, get 1,000-1, and you have to start hedging at some point. But if you think they can get by the first round, or even possibly get into the Sweet 16, that's when you can really start making money on those tickets. Buy low, sell high. I always like to do this exercise because kind of talks about teams that we're going to either fade possibly, and it doesn't have to be like the next time they play, but we're kind of eyeing them up a little bit, and maybe someone you want to buy. I'll start with sell high, and this might be a little bit crazy, but I don't think the SEC is, unfortunately, in football they're not good, and they're not as good, I don't think, in basketball as they were last year. Kyle, and two Big Ten fans like us, like, what are we talking about, right? Missouri is a team that only shoots 51% effective field goal on the road, and they just had a big win. And it's not like they're that high on Ken Palm, but when they did step up in competition, when they go on the road, is usually when they get beat up. I mean, Illinois pretty much doubled them in points, 91-48, and that wasn't long ago. That was on December 22nd. Losing to Ole Miss was pretty ugly. I don't think Missouri's that good. And I'm searching to possibly fade them this weekend against LSU. It's just because the home road splits is something I really love to look at. And if you look, their first away game, they lost to Notre Dame. and then neutral court right away. They lost by 20 to a really so Kansas team this year. This isn't like the greatest Kansas teams we've seen, even though they just got the big upset in the fog, but that's just in the fog. I think the Florida win is kind of making them look a little bit too good. So I'll say sell high in Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, I think Missouri is probably not as good as most people think, too. A team that could pull some upsets at home can do a little bit of damage there, but away from home, they haven't proven much. And the loss to Kansas, too. Darren Peterson only played like half that game, and he's easily Kansas's best player. With him not in the full swing of it like he was here this past week against Iowa State, I think that makes that loss a little bit worse. And other than that, I think that
they turn the ball over a lot too. They rank 255th in turnovers, and their free throw percentage, Cal, 332nd. You don't want to back a team that can't shoot free throws either.
Yeah, right. Apologize if I have to clear my throat a few times here. Trying to get over a cold, but so it's that time of the year, I guess. Like you and I have said, the germ factory sends home some of the germs back to old dad. So, I mean, I'll be honest. I think Missouri is a good fade, especially on the road. LSU is an interesting spot, Kiev, because the way they lost last game, oh man, what a way to lose a game. You would think that they'd come back, really wanting to win this one. And I think LSU is probably a good buy low there. And Missouri in general, I think they might be a good sell high even for the rest of the season if you just go against them. I think they're probably not as good as most people think they are right now. So
yeah, and you're right. That game against Kentucky was brutal way to lose it. But at the same time, your next game's at home. It's not like you're going on the road after that. I think they do get that one at home because the four losses in a row is tough. But yeah, we'll see. Missouri just can't play on the road, so it's always number dependent, and that's why you and I always have to predict these spreads and kind of tell our listeners where we kind of like it or not. Good thing that we do have Friday night lines, but what about you? Do you have a buy low or sell high?
Yeah, I'm going to sell high on Portland State. This is kind of under the radar. The Vikings are a team. What's that?
You're playing tonight, actually.
Yeah, they are. I don't even know what the score is of anything they're playing tonight. So this is not dependent upon that. But I think Portland State is a team that's usually pretty reliant on defense and forcing turnovers. And, I think they're 10-1 against the spread in their last 11. I mean, they've been covering spreads at a really high rate. I just don't think that they're going to be able to keep making shots the way they have so far this year. That if you look year after year, they've been really poor offensive efficiency wise. And that's a conference. Kiev, you know this. Everybody in that conference is good at offense. I mean, overs are a good way to look when you're betting in the big sky. Yeah. Now, Portland State plays fast, but they're more about forcing turnovers and winning with forcing turnovers and getting run out steals. If somebody can actually take care of the ball, I think they could have a little bit of trouble, and the numbers are going to keep getting a little bit more expensive. You're going to start paying a tax on them. I think long term that this could be a good sell here on Portland State.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. They're playing Northern Colorado today, and Northern Colorado isn't exactly the best road game, a road team, but I think, next time they're on the road, it would be a good fade spot. They're not going to keep covering like this. When they lose to Colorado by 11, I mean, it's not like Colorado's a great team. It's just that this is not a 10-1 ATS team. Against San Francisco, they lost by 10. I know it was back, in November, but Nebraska, Omaha, you're losing to the number 274th team at home. Yeah, that was the one they didn't cover, by the way. That's a bad sign. I like that one, Kyle. I'm going to write that down in Portland State. I'm going to go with a buy low team, and I might sound a little bit like a homer here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to bet them against Rutgers, but I think Wisconsin could be a buy low team. Here's what I like about what happened. They beat Michigan, right? And I was celebrating in Puerto Vallarta when it happened. I was really like, I cannot believe they beat Michigan, right? We were found it on the radio app because I couldn't get it on TV. But they came back in the letdown spot at Minnesota at their rival. That's our biggest rival is the Gophers, and they won that game. Minnesota popped a 3. tied it up, and it was a long distance 3. And then Blackwell came right back and popped it right back in their face and hit a buzzer beater. That kind of tells me the character is starting to build at Wisconsin. They're only 39th on Ken Palm, but I'm not saying as a big favorite, you're going to want to always lay it with them. But I will say that the times that they are a dog, and there's going to be plenty of them. Indiana, there's going to be Illinois. There's going to be some home dogs too, with Michigan State coming up. Those are the times you're going to want to buy low on this Wisconsin Badger team. And I might even do it when they play USC at home, only favored by 5. It looks like, according to Ken Palm. I think that I would definitely play Wisconsin against them. So, kind of something in the future.
Wisconsin's good. I mean, you weren't the only one cheering for Wisconsin against Michigan. Shocking, right? No, but I like Wisconsin basketball team, and I think well coached. They've changed, as you know, from a defensive team to a team that's really good at offense, and they have too many different scorers. It's tough to stop them all. That was a great finish against Minnesota. A really fun game. I think Minnesota at home is always a tricky matchup because they do have a really good home court advantage. And the wins that Wisconsin was coming off before that made that a tricky spot. But I think Wisconsin's a good team, so I support that one as well.
Awesome. Good stuff. That's all I have for buy low, sell high. Do you have another, or should we get into our next segment?
Yeah, I have a buy low, and I will admit that this one is almost like a hold your nose one because – and I didn't do it on purpose, but mine's also a Big Ten team. I went with an under the radar team for the sell high, but I'm going to go with Oregon. They're 5-12 against the spread this year, and honestly, they look legitimately bad. I've watched them play. They don't look like a good team. But Kiev, I've looked at all the stats year after year. Altman's teams have been very good covering spreads late in the season. We've talked about this before. If you just filter coaches by mid to late February on through the rest of the season, Altman's number 1 on the list. So I have to think that as a long term, I think Oregon could be a good buy low. This might even be one that I'm not really excited to bet here right away. Don't go and bet this weekend and go haywire on it or something. But I think that there's going to be some spots here to buy Oregon when everybody else is giving up on them. They don't look like they're a good team. And I'm not saying that they're going to do some major damage later this year or anything. I just think that they can start covering spreads. I mean, you look at they're 1-5 in the conference, but look down their schedule a little bit. They're going to play, games at Purdue and Indiana. Then they're going to come home in middle of February, play Penn State, Minnesota. They'll finish at Northwestern, at Illinois, home against Washington. My guess is over that last 6 or 8 game stretch, Oregon will cover spreads at a pretty high rate, just because we've seen in the past, unless something's different about this team, Altman does a good job getting his teams to peak at the right time.
Yeah, and one of their best players is hurt, Jackson Shellstad. Right. And when he comes back, it's just going to mean the numbers got better for Oregon because the efficiency sites, don't factor that in. He's coming back. They're not going to boost them. At least most don't do that. And so the market's going to be a little bit too low on them. So I agree with you there. And I mean, it's funny. If we did this podcast a month ago, it'd be great to say Nebraska, but they're not under the radar. I have been betting them every single week. I'm just going to keep rolling it until I lose, but probably be stuck betting them on this week. But they're going to run out of gas at some point too. But they already made me so much money just betting on them. I have to keep going until that wears out. But it's cool to see a team like Nebraska, who has been a failure in football. It's almost like Indiana and Nebraska kind of traded places. Nebraska used to be right. Yeah. So it's great to see them. And this team plays legit defense, just very legit defense, and they're very disciplined. And I'm really tons of props to Fred Hoiberg. But we can go on and on. I think we should get into some games and talk about them for this weekend. I'll start with Toledo versus Kent State because it's a Friday game. There's some 4s out there, but I'll project the spread at -4.5, where that's the most consensus number, with a total of about 171. This is kind of an underrated MAC game for Friday night after the work buzz. Kent State is actually, they've been one of the MAC's better programs. You throw out Akron, and Kent State is the basketball programs over the past few years. And they're an offensive focused team, 72nd in effective field goal percentage, lightning pace, 19th in tempo. Kyle, they play pretty fast. They ran through their non-conference with 3 losses. 2 of them were close games. Toledo's actually very similar to them in a way that their offense and defense ranks almost identical in efficiency. But, the Golden Flash is just the much better shooting team, 72nd in effective field goal percentage to the Rockets at 143rd. But the issue with Kent State is that they've been turning the ball over a lot. So they have that lightning pace, but they've turned the ball over. And this is kind of why I like them at home. I think they're a little bit better at home. The reason I want to lay the points here is that Kent State has dominated this matchup. Last 2 years, it was a 19-point victory away and like a 40-point victory at home against these Toledo Rockets. But I looked at the real history. They covered 8 out of the last 10 matchups against Toledo. The big thing for me is that Kent State can rebound the ball. Toledo can't rebound the ball. So that's where they're going to get the second chance. That's where their margin is going to come from. And this is just a very low spread for me. They rank 73rd in rebounding percentage. Toledo ranks 236th in rebounding percentage. I'm going to lay at the 4 points here. I'll even call it 4.5.
Man, this total is really high for a reason. You know that. I don't want to bet the under here. I'm not saying I'd bet over 171 necessarily, but if somebody goes through a slump early in this game, I could see the live over having some value here because it's hard to see either team getting consistent stops. You've got Toledo, who's very good at getting the steals and quick scores in transition. Kent's not been very good in transition defense. Kent is really good on the offensive glass, and Toledo gives up a ton of second chances.
Right.
We know that can really do some major damage. From 3, Kent's been very good. Toledo, a poor 3-point defense. Year after year, Toledo's really not been very good on defense. Kent's playing much faster this year than they have in a lot of the past years. I mean, 19th in tempo. Last year, they were 222nd. The year before, 245. So they've really amped up the pace a lot. I think this will be a really high-scoring game. I could see a Kent team total over being a decent look here as well. It's going to be really high, obviously. But, I don't know that this is one that I'm going to bet, but I think I would lean the same way as you there.
Okay, yeah, and like you said, team total is always an option if you're afraid that they're going to turn the ball over a little bit too much. Let's go to one of your picks. We have Kentucky at Tennessee. And Tennessee, according to KenPom, is going to be lane 6. Torvik's been a little bit off from KenPom this year. If people have noticed, I find it. I feel like the market's actually kind of gravitated more towards Torvik. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, Kyle, but we're probably looking at a total of about 144. Does that sound right? About 144. So, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think 145 or so is probably about right. So, I think Tennessee laying 5.5, 6 points is probably the way I'd look at this one. We've talked about Rick Barnes before, but this isn't the time of the year that I like to fade Rick Barnes. It's in March that I like to fade Rick Barnes. Kentucky's coming off this big win where they do the Christian Laettner play, and it works. They win a game that they had no business winning. Now they go to Tennessee feeling pretty good about themselves. Tennessee had a big scare last game. So you would think that Rick Barnes and company would be pretty prepared for a game like this. And, I just think that Kentucky has not proven to be consistently good enough to want to trust them against a team that is good on both sides of the ball. Tennessee is always very good defensively. They're great on the offensive glass as well. Kentucky is a pretty good defensive rebounding team, but Tennessee is going to get second chances. And, the way Tennessee played throughout the course of the season last year. I know they don't have the same team, but this is a team that I think is more consistently strong. They had a 3-game losing streak against Kansas on a neutral, at Syracuse. That was a bad loss. And then Illinois, they've played a pretty tough schedule here. Kentucky, a team that, away from home, a bad performance at LSU where they should have lost. They lost to Alabama by 15. They lost at Louisville by 8. That Louisville loss doesn't look quite as good as it did earlier either. I just don't see much out of Kentucky on the road that makes me want to trust them here in this spot. And, if you look at Kentucky's away from home performance. We like to look at Haslametrics, Kiev, and 363rd in away from home performance so far this year. Kentucky is, and Tennessee is 22nd home court performance. I think this is a lay it spot here with Tennessee. And I think Tennessee minus 5.5 or so, somewhere in that range, is probably going to be where we're at. And I think others will bet this as well. So I think you probably want to bet it early rather than late.
Yeah, I would bet this early for sure. I think it keeps going up as the market tends to get saturated. You know, this weird Kentucky team beat Tennessee during the regular season 2 times last year, and then Tennessee beat them in the tournament, if you remember, and they beat them pretty easily in the tournament. It was never a game. They won by 13 points, and everyone's like, you know, oh, here we go. Kentucky's going to get them. No, Tennessee kind of put their foot down. And I'm sure Tennessee's thinking a little bit about that game at home that they lost last year, which again should give them some extra motivation against Mark Pope here. I did expect more out of Mark Pope, to be honest with you, Kyle. I thought that Kentucky by now should be the number 1 or number 2 team in the SEC, and I'm just not seeing that. As a matter of fact, I'd put Calipari's team over them right now, which is the guy that left Kentucky, right? I would put Arkansas in front of them right now. It's just been very weird for them. The way they got beat against Gonzaga, holy cow, that was embarrassing. Just like by 40 some points, 45 points. I was like, seriously, Kentucky? That should have been a wake-up call. And then they played NC Central, and somehow I'm not even sure if they covered that game, but it was 103-67, and NC Central is just like one of the worst teams in the nation. But no, I would lay it with Tennessee, and I just wrote that down as well. Let's move to the next game. I'm going to pick Ohio State hosting UCLA. I'm projecting Ohio State to be about a 2 to 3 point favorite. I wrote -3, give or take. 148 is the total. Some efficiency sites say 149. This game's going to mean something kind of to both these teams because they're kind of up there in the rankings as far as KenPom, but they need to get in the NCAA tournament. So this is a meaningful Big Ten game. Ohio State has been very hit or miss, but actually kind of mostly missed. They're 6-10 ATS, Kyle's, you probably know. They haven't any big wins yet. You know, it's like every time they've stepped up to somebody, they lost. One thing they do play a little bit more than they have in the past is defense. I mean, it's 60th in efficiency, but this Ohio State team has not exactly been known for their defense. About a mid-range pace at 196 ranking in the nation. UCLA, very defensive oriented. Since their loss to Wisconsin, they stuffed Maryland. They allowed 55 to Maryland. And I watched some of that Penn State game the other night, Kyle. That was last night, actually. Allowing 60 points. Penn State couldn't even really move the ball. The Bruins rank a slow pace, 286. It would be even slower if they had a different non-conference schedule, in my opinion. You know, those non-conference schedules, everybody speeds up because it's so easy. I like the under in this game. Ohio State could win with margin. I can see a lot of ways that it goes under. I think UCLA could just shut them down. The Bruins only shoot 48.7 effective field goal efficiency away from home as well. If you want to look at Haslametrics, they also have a very poor away from home. Under 148 is my play.
I like it. I don't think Ohio State's really that good. I think Bruce Thornton is very good. They don't have great second, third, fourth options. And, Mobley is a very streaky shooter. He can get white hot. He can also go ice cold. Ohio State's defense, I don't trust them in the half court all that much, but UCLA is not that good of an offense either. I think UCLA will try to slow the pace down. And Kiev, I think Ohio State plays to the pace of the opponent usually. This is not a team that's really very good at dictating tempo. I mean, if you look, they played 73 possessions against Western Michigan and Purdue Fort Wayne, 72 against Northwestern, who's been playing quick this year, 62 against Rutgers, 63 against Oregon, 65 against Washington. In general, kind of trending downward in possessions. And now you're playing in a UCLA team that definitely wants to slow it down. I think 66 possessions is what KenPom thinks they'll be. I think they'll be less than that. I think that's a little too fast. So if you say 64 possessions instead of 66, you put the efficiencies similar, I think under is the right way to go. And I think what's going to happen again with Ohio State is we're going to go into the 1st of March, and they're going to be that team that's just barely like
Yeah.
along the bubble. And it's like, okay, they need a big win. Can they get a big win? That's what it's been like every single year for the last few years. And they always can't get that win they need. I'm not terribly confident. Hopefully they prove me wrong. I'll be rooting for them. But too many years of the Buckeyes not looking too great here in basketball for me to have too much confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's you're right. They don't dictate the pace. I think it's UCLA is going to dictate the pace, and I think it's going to be about 63 to 64 possessions as well. I think that's a pretty solid number you threw out there. Next one, and it's funny, Kyle, you picked the game I was going to pick, but as a good host, I am. I picked a different one. So, and that was this one. But I love this Iowa State team, and they're playing a very, very defensive oriented Cincinnati team. Iowa State is coming off a big loss. You know what the projected line is? Was it 7? I don't know what you have for this one. I'm just going to go to Ken Palm. It's going to say 9. It's going to be an away favorite of 9 with a total of about 137 at Cincinnati. So give me what you have for this one.
Well, I think the total will get bet up here because all Cincinnati totals have been getting bet up because they are playing really quick. If you just look at tempo, since he's playing much quicker than they were last year, and I think some people, well, certainly tempo matters a lot. I think some people are too dependent on just the pace that they're playing at because Cincinnati's 207th in offensive efficiency, 8th in defensive efficiency. They're 46th in average possession length this year, 219th last year. I think they will play pretty quick here. Iowa State coming off a loss to Kansas, like you said. Now, Kansas is not the best team they've been, but now with their star player Peterson back at Fall Gallon, I mean, they can have fantastic home performances there. I think some people are going to be too quick to write off Iowa State. Iowa State's a really good team. As far as the side, what would I really want to bet? I don't know. I'd rather bet the under. Here's what I'd rather bet. I'd rather bet under, wait for this to go up to, 137 is what Ken Palm has. I think that's a good guess. Maybe I think I'm going to be just a tick lower than that. But I think this one goes up to like 140. So if we can get 139 and a half, 140, I think this could be a good under because Iowa State played really fast in non-conference. But look at their pace in conference. They've been a second per possession slower on offense. I think that they will not run and gun here. I think they'll do more of trying to win with defense because Otzelberger is at his core a defensive-minded coach. I think Wes Miller has taken a lot of heat. I mean, he is not a popular guy among the Cincinnati fans at this point. He knows that. He's said as much. They've lost a ton of close games. So do I want to lay this many points on the road? I don't know. I mean, I definitely trust Iowa State more than I trust Cincinnati. But Cincinnati had close games against Houston. Houston, I think it was tied with like 3 or 4 minutes left, and they lost by 7. They were beating West Virginia, then lost at the end. They've had some confusing performances, to say the least. But to me, I trust both the defenses more than I trust both of the offenses. So I'm looking to bet an under here if the market continues to bet up Cincinnati ones. That's something I really think people should try to do too, Kiev, is go back and see what the market does from open to close in past games and predict future. You can find out a lot by just looking at what the market's telling you. If you want to take the under here and they open 137, I would wait it out because I think 139 and a half, 140 is probably coming. Where earlier we said, Tennessee is probably going to go up, so you'd want to bet that early. This is one I'd want to wait and bet later.
Yeah, 140 would be a nice number to go under, but I was kind of with you. I was going to possibly lay Iowa State on the road just because of after that big loss. I think they really get it together, and every team needs that loss and get it out of the way, and then they kind of become a team again. And that, Joshua Jefferson has just been fantastic for Iowa State, and Timon Lipsey, he's one hell of a point guard. He doesn't put up a ton of points, but he really is great with the ball. And there's enough rebounds and defense on this team to shut anybody down. And The problem with Cincinnati is if they can't get their offense going, I mean, ranking 241st in field goal efficiency, they can really get in some trouble. I don't care if you're ranked number 8th in the defense efficiency on Ken Palm. When you're playing Iowa State and you can't keep up with them, yeah, there's just nothing you're going to be able to do. So I'm looking to lay the points, actually, Kyle, with Iowa State. So I'm totally with you on that one. Next one, I'm going to go with, it's funny. I can't wait to do a little hodgepodge because I do want to run a game by you, but I'm going to go Iowa versus Indiana. Indiana -2, total 143. This is kind of an interesting game, too, is that both these teams are coming off multiple losses. It's kind of interesting. What the other interesting thing is, Kyle, both coaches just recently coached on Drake. One was 2024, one was 2025. Right? I find that really funny, how recently both of them coached for Drake. But anyway, poor Drake, right? I feel for Iowa a little bit. I just kind of think they went through the gauntlet there because they had Illinois and Purdue. They had a tough letdown spot in Minnesota where they lost that game. I bet the under in that game. But Indiana, I think, like we said earlier, is the bee's knees in football. I just don't like. I'm not buying their basketball team this year. As a matter of fact, they were one of my considered sell high teams. I think they're a little bit overrated. Indiana's best home team or home win, I believe, if I'm not missing anything, was against Washington. Indiana just kind of is a bully. They beat up bad teams like Maryland by 20 points ish. Chicago State, right? They won by 20 against Chicago State. Should have been 50 because Chicago State.
That's not too much.
Yeah, that's not that much. Every time they fought somebody tough, like Louisville, lost by 9 points. Minnesota lost by 9 points, which is not tough. Lost to Kentucky by 12. It's just that they're losing by margin. Really considering laying Iowa on the road, but I kind of like the under better if it's going to be 143. Ken Palm has it at 145. I was trying to be generous, putting this line down to 143. I just think that Iowa will control the pace. Ben McCollum is going to slow it down even slower than he's been playing. When Ben McCollum started this out, they were playing Robert Morris, Western Illinois, a bad Xavier team, Southeast Missouri, Chicago State. So, this Iowa team, who did beat Chicago State by 40, they didn't have a chance to slow it down yet because they had such easier games. But if you remember, Ben McCollum is going to go down to a snail's pace. It would not shock me if this game's like 60-52. Yeah. I just think Indiana is it. And it's always that superstition. It's like if the basketball team better lose for the football team to win. I know you don't buy into that, but it's funny how that does work. My friends talk about that, but it's a situation where I don't think Indiana is going to have a chance here. And I like Iowa better in the rebound spot. I like Iowa at the pick'em, but I like the under a little bit better. So we'll go under 143.
Kiev, I don't have a strong opinion on this game. This is a tough one for me. I think I would lean the under if I was forced to bet it. Side, I don't know what to bet. McCollum's a really good coach. I think he knows to slow the pace down here. I think Darian DeVries is a good coach as well. But Indiana's had a couple spots. That Nebraska game, weren't they up like 16 or something? And they were up really big and then blew that game. That was a tough way to lose. I think Indiana has to prove it to me before I'd want to bet on them. But at the same time, Iowa's had kind of a gauntlet, like you said. I mean, you could argue playing Illinois and then at Purdue, are they due for kind of a tough game at some point or a letdown? I mean, they can't be a letdown spot really when you're playing Indiana, but they lost at the buzzer against Minnesota, basically, and then a close one to Illinois, close one against Purdue where they were ahead in the second half by like 9 points. I don't know. Two teams that, I'll be honest, these are two teams that I don't really have on my list of anything I want to play right now. So I'll root for you on this one, but I'm going to pass.
No, fair enough. And, Iowa, one thing they do have going for them is they have been shooting the ball well. So if they control the place, they shoot the ball well, that's when your over gets in a little bit of trouble. Indiana not playing a lot of defense. That worries me, but I just think Iowa's defense will pace this thing out to where the under is going to hit. And so that's my play. What about you? Don't you have a final game? Let's bring it up. It is Duquesne versus Fordham. I was just talking about Fordham last week, I feel like. All right, let's bring this game up here. Unless you already have the spread, projected spread written, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Palm has Fordham +1 at home, 147. I don't care about the spread really in this one. I'm caring about the total.
Pick them.
Yeah, I think pick is a good guess here, and I have to bet under in this one because Fordham's been very good at slowing the pace down. I think Magpio, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name wrong or not, but he was a good coach at UC Riverside. He did a good job for them. And Fordham has struggled year after year for a good while now. Last year, they were really poor defensively. They played relatively quickly, so they had some high scoring games. This year, 353rd in average possession length. And they've pretty much dictated the tempo, Kiev. 63 possessions, 63, 63, 63, 67, 61. This is a team that's slowing the game down pretty consistently. Duquesne has played pretty quick this year, but in conference, they're 1.5 seconds per possession slower than what they were out of conference. I think the 67 possessions here that Ken Palm has is too fast. I think this is going to be more like 64, 65 possessions. 147 points. If it's 147, I'm going to bet the under. So I don't know exactly where this one will go. I think Fordham games are more likely to get bet down than up. So if it's there, I think you just want to go ahead and take it. And other people are going to see that Duquesne has played a bit slower here too. I mean, even some of their recent games, they had a double overtime game against Davidson. Were it not for double overtime, that would have been a low scoring game there. And then they had an overtime game against St. Joe's as well. So some of their games are a little bit higher than they should have been recently. And then they played a 136 game against Dayton last time out, 64 possessions. So I think that Duquesne's non-conference games that were, 80 some possessions are kind of skewing what the market will think of this game.
Yeah, a couple interesting points about this. Yeah, Fordham is a great unders team. I did hit him on the under recently. I think it was against Richmond or George Mason. I can't remember which team it was. Yeah, their free throw to field goal percent is, or field goal attempt,
Yeah.
364th. They don't get to the free throw line, and that's obviously if you're not getting the free throw line. You're just dancing around, ranking 348th in pace, just chucking up crap. That's kind of what it seems. Their 3-point percentage, 343rd. What's real funny about this, though, the matchup dichotomy here, is that Duquesne is number 3 in over team. They're 12-3 to the over, number 3 in the nation, while Fordham is right at the bottom in unders, like 12, like 4-12 or something like that. I have to relook at it. But it's just funny. 4-11, right? So they're in the bottom 10 to the under. It's just such a big stretch. But I always like the team that's in home that can dictate the pace, right? And Fordham is at home here. I'm with you. I'm writing this down. I think 147 would be a gift if we get that. I'll even put it 144. I'll take the under.
Yeah, I think 145 and a half, 146 is more likely than 147. And I think, Fordham, the other thing about them, you said that they don't get to the free throw line. They also don't put the opposition on the free throw line. So there's not very many free throws in their games in general. The other thing that I really love to look at is defensive rebounding. They're excellent. So they're not putting people on the line, and they're also not giving second chance points. That's a really good recipe for an under, especially in the mid 140s.
Yeah, Duquesne's not bad at defensive rebounding either, ranking 93rd. So it could be a lot of back and forth wasted possession. So that'd be wonderful to hit that. So I have that written down. This is why I love doing this with you, Kyle. We both come up with a few hot ones. Well, that brings up some hodgepodge, Kyle. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Arkansas versus Georgia. I mean, how high is this total going to be? Because Bart Torvik has this at 188. Maybe so. Ken Palm has it at like 182, something like that. Would you bet the under in this game?
Oh, no, no chance. I'm not betting the under with your money on this game, Kiev. No way. I mean, I like unders, and people sometimes say, Kyle, why do you love to bet unders? I don't really love to bet unders. I'm just better at unders usually, but I don't want to bet the under in this game. I mean, it's sick. Um, 182 is Ken Palm. It looks like my number is going to be higher than that. Yeah. So I think, what did you say Torvik is here?
Torvik is 188.
Yeah,
I
I'm going to,
think it's going to be 183. But if I see, but Kyle, if I see 179, I'm probably
oh,
betting the over. You know,
yeah,
I feel like the market just might think, oh, that's too much. I'll bet the over if it's 179.
there are people who blindly bet the high numbers down. And if they want to do that here, then I'll take the over too. I think it will open higher than that for sure. Um, 180, I think, is close to a buy on an over. And that sounds ridiculous because I don't like betting high overs, Kiev. All it takes is one bad stretch.
It takes a 2 minute stretch of
I
crap.
mean, and then you're like, wow, that's it. But I definitely lean to the over. I mean, I think this is a game where both teams are really good at taking care of the basketball. I mean, there's not going to be many turnovers, lots of second chances, lots of free throws. We've seen some epic free throw fests in the SEC already this year. Alabama's been involved in several. I think this could be another where we see a ton of free throws. And I mean, 77 possessions is what Ken Palm has. I'm betting the over on how many possessions there'll be. I think 80 is more likely than 77.
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of great games. Arizona at UCF. I was on UCF when they upset Kansas. Do I have the balls to bet against Arizona? I don't know, man. It's probably going to be like a 9-point spread. I really don't want to go against Arizona. They're undefeated. They probably just watched what Michigan did and what Iowa State did, and knowing that they're in full control right now. But it's not like they haven't been slipping up. They only beat ASU by 7 points at home. Actually, that was really their only slip up. I mean, you look through the rest of the numbers, you have to go way back to UConn, who's like a top 10 team, where they only won by 4 points, and UCLA, but that was way back in November. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to mess with Arizona here. They look like the truth. Them and the old team up north and Iowa State are my top three, but I think they're everybody's top three now. I did bet some Iowa State back in December to mid-December to win the title, but probably I don't think I'm going to mess with this one.
I think UCF might be a little bit overrated in general. They've had some pretty good luck factor rankings, or that they've been pretty lucky so far this year. So I don't know. Arizona had a bit of a tough game, like you said, against Arizona State. Maybe that's a wake up call. I think Arizona would probably be my lean in that game, but another game that's going to be really high scoring.
Yeah, looking for a dog with home dog with fleas. Does Washington have fleas? Washington was supposed to be decent coming into the year, but they're only 10-7. They lost 3 of the last 4 games. Of course, it was against Indiana, Purdue, and Michigan. They beat Ohio State at home, but Michigan State going on the road is probably only laying 4.5, 5. Kyle, it's just one of those that's going to be like, Michigan State only laying 4.5 or 5 against the likes of Washington. I almost feel like that's insulting to Michigan State in a way. But Washington, they don't shoot that well. They don't turn the ball over that much. They don't shoot threes that well. They don't even attempt that many threes. They're kind of lanky. They have a few tall guys. They have a couple of injuries actually. Yeah, I would possibly look to Michigan State here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the under in this game too. I mean, Michigan State's really good defensively. They don't give up second chances. They're number 1 in defensive rebounding, 13th in block shot percentage, and Washington's taking so many twos that I would think that Michigan State could kind of neutralize some of that. I think I'd probably want to bet the under more than anything else in this game.
Yeah, probably. But the problem is that Washington can be so bad. Michigan maybe, and they'll start playing faster. Their average possession length, their average possession length is more than their tempo, which just means that. Well, I mean, actually, coming out of the non-con, you see a lot of that. But they're playing a little bit faster. I wouldn't bet the over, that's for sure. But I'm thinking about laying with Michigan State. Just want to throw that out there. Texas A&M buckyball at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, Texas just came off the big win.
Hmm.
Texas A&M off the double overtime loss. Texas coming off the home win over Vandy after they beat Bama on the road. I mean, where did this come from, Texas, Kiev? I mean, this is a team that lost at home to Mississippi State, lost on a neutral to Arizona State and Hawaii, and now here they are beating Alabama on the road and then Vandy at home. I know they have a couple really good players, Dalen Swain, who is from Ohio, and I got to see him a couple times. He's a really good player, um, kind of the leader of that team, and then the 7-footer that's very good as well. I, I'm surprised they've played this well, and I would tend to want to take A&M plus the points, but tricky one.
It's very tricky. The over is going to be about 165, 166. What's funny about this, I expected more pace out of Sean Miller here in this first year. I thought that this team would have a little bit more of that. Now, Texas does get to the free throw line all the time. So I like that part. They also foul a lot. A&M plays, 10th in average possession length, 21st in tempo. They do play decent defense, but not enough when it comes to playing Texas. This could be like an under the radar type over because people look at 165 and just pass, but I mean I could see this game just getting wild, just an absolute wild watch, right?
Yeah, I think over would be the way I'd want to look too. Maybe even an A&M team total over at like 80 and a half or something like that would be a decent way to look at this. Uh, Kiev, you're bringing up a lot of these really high scoring games. It's almost making me a little uncomfortable.
Making Kyle nervous over here.
You get
Sorry
me
about
nervous
that.
in here.
All right. Well, we can switch it up. I know we already talked Iowa State, Cincinnati to make you feel calm. Wyoming at Fresno State. That's not going to be super high scoring. The Mountain West is kind of. I feel like they're kind of weak this year. I
Yeah.
know that I do like what New Mexico's doing with the coach they hired from San Diego, from UC San Diego. They're actually doing pretty. When they lost Patino, Richard Patino, I thought they would take a big step back, but man, they're winning some games. They play a little bit faster, but I mean, the Mountain West in general, Utah State is real interesting. They're like the number one team, and I might be, we'll save that one. We'll save the Grand Canyon Washington State for the later segment, or sorry, Grand Canyon versus Utah State for the later segment, but. Do you have anything to say in general about the Mountain West? We love to fade them in the NCAA tournament, but what are your thoughts about the Mountain West?
Well, it might be a little harder to fade them this year because they're just not as good as they've been. So, in past years they've looked very good. Then they get in the tournament, and then they're rated pretty highly. This year, I don't even think they'll be rated very highly. They won't get as many teams in. I mean, San Diego State's not as good as they've been in some of those past years either. Um, New Mexico plus the points might be a decent look. I haven't looked at the game really, but that would be my lean against San Diego State there in that one. Colorado State's a team that's been really, they've played very well this year, but they're shooting 40.2% on threes, and they take a ton of them. If you think they're going to regress, then that could be a fade team as well because they take so many threes. That's really what they're dependent on. Grand Canyon's fun because they're different than everybody else, and they have the great home court advantage. Um, I don't think there's any team here other than Utah State that looks like a team that could win a game uh, in March Madness. I mean, maybe San Diego State, they're well coached and they play good defense usually, but Kiev, San Diego State's not that, top 5 defense that we've seen a lot of the other years. They're 26th in defensive efficiency, and they're not really that good on offense. So I don't know. I'm not, the Mountain West isn't as intriguing as some of the other years.
No, it's definitely not. It's ever since Grand Canyon joined them, it's kind of almost sad to watch. I was hoping you get a couple bids out of them. Yeah, Boise State ranking in the 80s certainly doesn't help either. They've had some really gross losses recently themselves. It is nice to see New Mexico's kind of still hanging in there with Olin as their coach, but yeah, not a lot to say about that. Another team that's been really weird is Alabama. I expected more out of them this year too, and a lot of people picked them to win it last year. I think I had a little money on them to win it, and they're still going to be very high in offensive efficiency because of all the possessions they have. But the fact that they don't do enough on defense. It's just kind of the same thing. They get cold and other teams keep scoring. And that's why they lost to Texas, and Vanderbilt, and got destroyed by Arizona, beat enough by Purdue and Gonzaga. I don't know. It's funny. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Alabama under Nate Oates would be a buy low team because they do have some talent there. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see either way on that. It's just their defense has not been very good. I mean, defensively last year they were, 28th. This year they're down to 72nd. They're not forcing any turnovers. They're not good on the defensive glass. I don't know. I don't think that looks like a team that has a great chance to go super deep. But they have played a really tough schedule. I mean, they've played the toughest schedule of anybody. So, maybe they can prove me wrong there. But that's a team that I have a hard time getting a read on, Kiev. Anytime I bet an over with them, somehow they have a lower scoring game. If I bet an under with them, I just absolutely hate it. So I usually pass on their games pretty quickly.
What's really weird is for the speed they play, they rank third in turnover percentage. So it's almost like they care so much about not turning the ball over that they're just not putting any energy in getting steals. It's like ranking 353rd in opponent turnover percentage. That's just not right. I get it. They're a weird team. They're a very, very weird team. Weird to see Stanford get a nice big win last night. So that was fun against North Carolina. They're going to play Duke. Imagine going North Carolina then Duke back to back. But you get them at home. It'd be cool if they can get 2 upsets right there. Duke's not the Duke that we remember either. They're not as good as they were last year. St. John's at Nova. We didn't really mention anything in the Big East. There's not a lot to talk about in the Big East. They're probably a 3 to 4 bid conference at best, right? St. John's last year was the better team, I think. Villanova definitely upgraded in coach, right? And that's kind of the thing is I like Kevin Willard a hell of a lot more than what they had with Neptune, with Kyle Neptune. Yeah. And I find that interesting because where's this game going to be? Semi-home? That usually means Madison Square Garden? No, Xfinity Mobile Arena.
I think this is 76ers.
Oh, you're right. It's out there. Okay. So, but that's closer to Nova. I would probably lean St. John's still if it's pick'em.
Yeah, Kiev. Look. Whether you like him, hate him, whatever, Rick Pitino is a damn good coach. Like he does a good job, and I'm not a huge Rick Pitino fan, but I'm a bettor, and his teams are very good. He coaches defense well. His teams get after it. They hustle very well. Very good on the offensive glass every single year. Under is a scary bet to make here. If it's 150 or so, with it being a somewhat neutral site, maybe under. But I think I would want to bet St. John's there in that game.
Yeah. And Nova still with Kevin Willard still a bit newer. They're doing great, but the funny thing about Nova is that their best win was against Wisconsin. Number 39 Wisconsin, and that was an overtime game in Milwaukee, and Wisconsin was looking really bad during that time. Their next best game is Seton Hall, number 44. St. John's could clean house with them. It's just kind of one of those where St. John's puts their foot down, and I'm betting on a coach here. It's not like Kevin Willard's bad. Look at what he did with Maryland last year, right? Okay, then is any other games you want to bring up before we move into little football?
Well, Seton Hall, by the way, you bring them up. I think Seton Hall might be a little overvalued at this point. They've been covering spreads like nobody's business. Shaheen Holloway is a good coach. They play good defense, but I think Seton Hall could be a sell high candidate coming up near term. It just looks like a team that has had too many of those comeback either wins or close losses like they had against UConn to cover a spread. I think Seton Hall is not quite as good as what they've looked to this point. other games, just real quick. Yeah, I think the under the radar game that I kind of like in the Missouri Valley is Belmont and Southern Illinois too. Belmont's a good team. Casey Alexander's a good offensive minded guy. Kiev, we have a couple of those now in the MVC that are good offenses. So I guess this is kind of a note of pause for people that just want to bet the MVC unders. You know this. There's a lot of people that don't pay attention to college basketball in November and December like we do, and they jump in and they think, well, MVC, I mean, it's unders, right? MVC is unders. And in general, there's a decent amount of under teams in the MVC. You've got Northern Iowa, who's a great under team, Valpo, Bradley's usually good defensively, teams like that. But Belmont, really good offensively, first in effective field goal percentage offense in the country. Southern Illinois, a quick team too. So I think that could be the type of game where people don't expect to see as many points in an MVC game, but I think the pace will be really quick and that could be pretty high scoring. A game where both teams are, pretty high quality teams. I think the MVC is very good this year. I mean, this is a top 10 type conference that's really improved itself by picking up Belmont and Murray State.
Belmont's always played a quick fastball.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, and they don't play a hell of a lot of defense. But being number one in effective field goal really says something. It's not like they played anybody in the top 100. They haven't, but it's not like that matters when you're playing Southern Illinois anyway, right? It's like Southern Illinois is just going to be sloppy, and they also pace at 60th themselves. So that's going to be definitely an interesting game. Plus, they turn the ball over, so that could really bring up the points here. I'll take a look at that over when it comes out. It's projected at 144. So Belmont under the radar game. I like it. All right, college football, dude. What do you think, man? I mean, I don't want to hit any pain points for you, but what's interesting is that the only two teams that beat Ohio State is Miami and Indiana, and here we go playing each other. But that says something. That says something about like they kind of belong there. They belong in the title game if they're the only two teams to beat really the number one team for most of the year in the country. And Ohio State's great, and they almost beat Indiana. Is this spread too high at 8.5? Is this total right at 47.5? I never bet overs on championship games, but I already did my breakdown on this one. But I mean, just to be honest with you, Kyle, my number 7 in the game on a neutral site. If it's really not neutral and you got to give Miami something, then make it 6 or 5.5. Yeah, it's just, do I want to get in front of that freight train of Indiana? Not really. I just feel like they do things so damn perfect that it just goes their way. I love Kirk Cignetti. I think now that everybody loves him, though, I'm kind of last. Say, I mean, I was the one that bet him. I bet him 200-1 last year. To make the playoffs, and now everyone loves him. But I liked him back from James Madison, and he was in the FCS before that, Kyle. So I think it's the greatest story I've seen in sports for if they finish this off, especially.
Absolutely. I mean, as far as underdog stories coming into it, I know they're not an underdog in this game. I mean, underdog story of being to this point, Indiana, I mean, this team has not had football success ever, really. And now they're to this point to where they're favored by this many points in the championship game. I mean, I've said this before, but if somebody just said, 8 or 10 years ago, Indiana in 10 years is going to be favored by more than a touchdown in the championship game, I mean, you would have thought there was something seriously wrong with that person. And I mean, I don't want to bet the side, honestly, Kiev. I know I won't. So I'll just, spoiler alert, I'm not betting the side in this game, and it's not going to happen. I haven't even decided if I'm going to take anything on the total as far as full game. I lean under the total. I think Miami has to run the football, take a bunch of time, play a little bit of keep away. They have really been very run heavy. Fletcher's been great. I think they can move the ball a bit, but I don't know if they can score touchdowns. And Indiana's red zone defense has been next level good. I mean, they are excellent in the red zone. Miami, if you look at their defense, the key to this game is what do we think the Miami defensive line is going to do against the Indiana offensive line? Because if they look like they did against Ohio State, Miami could absolutely win the game. If they look like they did against Ole Miss, they're going to lose. So I think Ole Miss, did pretty well, held their own on the offensive line against that defensive line, Bain, Osador, and people like that. I mean, uh, under is my lean. The only bet I've made in this game so far, Kiev, is first quarter under 10.5. The reason I took that is Miami's games have been staying under 10.5 every single game. I mean, in the first quarter, 9 straight. Indiana, 6 of their last 7 have stayed under that. And last week's really only went above it because the pick 6 right away, and then short fields immediately. I think this has the feel of a game where there's a feeling out process. And even if somebody does win by margin, I think it would be tight early on.
Yeah, I mean, I even looked at the first half under 2, and I'm just scared. It maybe it's just unwarranted fear, but when you just see a team that you were kind of like under power rating the whole freaking year, and then they keep doing this, it's like, could they just go up 24-0, and go over that total, or 24-3? I don't know, man. I agree that they should both start out in any championship game. You should start with nerves. You should try to really protect the ball. You're careful. You'd rather punt it than, throw into, double coverage, right? It's not a situation where it's smart to be aggressive in the beginning of a game, and that's the way it should be played. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I definitely wouldn't take the over. It's just like, I'm trying to find something to bet in this game, and I don't want to waste money. I'm not betting it just to bet it. I'm looking at the prop market, and I don't like too much of the rushing props over either. I might even go rushing props under. I mean, it's just I'm just not seeing a lot that I like, and it's kind of weird to say that.
What do you think of Mendoza's rushing prop? Do you think Mendoza will run for much here or not? I mean, I kind of tend to think that his rushing prop might be a bit too high.
No, I don't. He can get sacked. It's Miami's defense.
Right.
Miami sacked
big negatives.
Stan a few times, and that's great point. Surratt's interesting, over 56.5 receiving yards, but I don't know. Mendoza's been throwing it around, and what is his rushing total here?
19.5, something like that. 18.
Yeah. And what's funny with college, remind everybody, a sack counts as rushing yards. Right. So that's a very key thing. I'll go under. He might not even have to run the ball. Yeah, I would go under. I see it at 16.5 right now. So
it's dropped. Okay. I think under is still my lean even at that, because even last game when Mendoza went scrambling around, then fumbled, I mean, I think it would not be in their best interest to have him running any more than he has to. And Miami has caused a lot of tackles for loss that are like big losses. I mean, we saw Julian Sayin take these 15-yard losses consistently. I don't think he'll take big losses like that consistently, but, all it would take is 1 or 2, and that could pretty much ruin the rushing prop right there. Kiev, to be honest, as a Buckeyes fan, it feels a little bit weird because, the 2 teams they lost to are the teams that are playing in the title game. And it's like, I mean, some people are like, well, the Buckeyes suck. Well, they can't suck too bad because, I mean, they did lose to the 2 teams that, and some of the people are like, well, the Buckeyes suck, but Indiana, how about this great win over Ohio State? And it's like, well, that was a 3-point game that was, so, I mean, the Buckeyes were a good team, and Indiana and Miami deserved to win the games that they did. High leverage spots at the end of the game the Buckeyes didn't perform well in, and the pick 6 against Miami was just a massive play.
Right.
I think I just, as far as a side, Kiev, the problem with me taking Miami is I trust Cignetti a lot more than I trust Cristobal. I think Cristobal is a good offensive line coach, a good guy at motivating his team, but Cignetti, I don't know where the chink in his armor is. I mean, he's very good at everything. Cristobal has these spots where, you get late in the game, you never know what's going to happen. And against the spread, he's not been very good long-term. Cignetti, I mean, he's covered like 2/3 of the games that have been lined in his coaching career. So it's hard to go against.
Very hard to go against. And people that say that's inflated, well, Ohio State was laying 10.5 against Miami, and it's down to 8.5 against Indiana. I mean, how much adjustment are we making in 2-3 weeks of play? You're not supposed to be. This late in the year, we're supposed to know it all. It's just, it's. I mean, seriously, it's like it makes no sense to me that it's that high. Even though I probably made a big adjustment on Indiana over the past couple weeks, but I mean, I will say I did bring Indiana very close to Ohio State after the Big Ten championship game, and then as the playoffs happened, I was like, wow, Indiana maybe is better. But it was it's still like I don't even think I was at 10.5 when Ohio State played Miami. I think I was lower than that anyway, right? So not much I can do with it. But here's the thing, Kyle. I don't got to do anything right now because I don't have to bet this game. I can enjoy it with some popcorn,
Sure.
and I can also bet it if it hits 10. It might hit 10. I mean, there's a lot of people that are in Indiana. They're going to be like a favorite parlay piece. People are going to probably put them with some college basketball games. People are going to probably put them with an NFL game on Sunday too. So, this thing can keep moving, and there's going to be a money line perspective as well. That leaves us to beer bet bangers, Kyle. Any plus money, and this is kind of the same thing as what we do when we go on our Friday shows that we might pick up again actually at some point. Definitely talking some college basketball for the weekend, which we really enjoy. Our Spaces show, anything a dog, because I have one. I am going with Grand Canyon to upset Utah State, and they're going to be about +4, +4.5 if you look at the Ken Palm number. I do like what Utah State has done. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like Utah State has. They're bullying teams around. They're ranked 22nd on Ken Palm, but they still have an ugly loss to South Florida, a decent South Florida team, but not a great South Florida team. Yeah, I mean, South Florida is 11-6 in a weaker conference. Their best win, Utah State's best win, is against VCU back on November 7th. Their best win since then is against Nevada. They haven't even gotten into the meat and potatoes of the Mountain West schedule yet. And Grand Canyon has such a home court advantage. I'm taking them, man. Ken Palm's got it at 6, so you're maybe looking at +170, +180 type situation. I like it.
You can definitely see that. Grand Canyon, great home court advantage. Utah State, really good at home. They've had some good road wins here, but this is a big test for them. And Grand Canyon coming off a loss, I think that's a good spot. I am going to go with Sacramento State against Northern Colorado, like way under the radar, kind of sicko level here.
Okay.
Sacramento State with Bibby, they've been pressing and playing as fast as they can. Kind of a fun little team to follow. Northern Colorado, we mentioned them earlier. They just played Portland State tonight. They lost by 3.
They lost by 3, and it depends where you got the spread. I mean,
right.
It was 3.5 and 2.5. And it was also 3. I actually had 3, to be honest with you. But
oh, did you? Okay. I didn't have anything on the game, but I will say this. I mean, this is a Northern Colorado team that's been way better at home over the years than they have been on the road. I think that this is a game where they could trip up. I mean, Northern Arizona went to Sacramento State here today. Sacramento State won by 14. Look at what Sac State's schedule was. They had played like 8 games in a row on the road. Now they come home. They get a win while Northern Colorado is going to Portland State, then coming down to Sacramento State. I think this is not a very good spot here for Northern Colorado. So not my highest, this isn't one I'd want to bet a bunch of money on an ATS. This is more I want to take a flyer on a straight up win.
Yeah, it's going to be about 5-point spread, about the same as I mentioned with mine. And, it's too bad almost that they beat Northern Arizona.
I know.
If they didn't, right? But here we go. That tonight it just finished and they won 83-69. I guess that was the one to fade, but they were favorites against Northern Arizona. So, I mean, what can you do? No, I can see it. I can see it for sure. Northern Colorado will be a road favorite here. So I'll write Sac State, and maybe we can get our little parlay action beer bet money line going. And see how far that goes, my friend. Well, Kyle, we are at time. My friend, thank you so much for coming on this show as usual. Love your insight. And every time we talk, I can do this forever, but we got to end it sometime. Tell our listeners where they can get your great information.
Well, first, thank you for having me on. It's good to chat again. It's been a while. And I think we should do the spaces again soon. I've gotten a couple questions about those this week. I think maybe 3 or 4 people have asked at this point about whether college basketball spaces are coming back. I think they should. We'll figure out a night that works, and we might even have to change it around a little bit, depending on what's going on. But we'll do some of the spaces coming up. Those will be fun. I'm sure you and I will chat some more here through basketball season. But my work is over at huntersportspicks.com. You can check out everything going on over there. It's been a good college basketball season thus far. It was really good, and I've hit a little bit of a slump here lately. I think I'm like 98 and 68 or something like that this year in college hoops. Very good. So hopefully can keep the season going really well. And who knows? I mean, I think this is a tricky time, Kiev, because early season I think is easier to win in November and December than it is in January or February. And then I tend to find more edges again in March. But don't go all in real quick if you're listening in, because if you haven't been betting college basketball and then you just jump back in, there's a lot of changes. I mean, a lot of different players, a lot of different coaches. You can't go based on what you remember from last March, because a lot of different things have happened. And I think this is a tricky time of the year with the conference season just kind of getting underway, and more people betting college basketball. So the volume is going to be quite a bit higher. We'll see the lines get a bit more. The bookmakers are going to get sharper with their numbers here, so we have to make some adjustments.
Absolutely, we got to make some adjustments, and we'll figure out a great time. I'm sure we will. And we'll try to make it where most people can watch it. So that's great stuff. Make sure you guys check out Kyle Hunter at Kyle Hunter Picks. Kyle will be texting.
All right, thanks, man.